pre-rate hike, I think a lot of operators can hide behind the rent growth. Now in a down market, ops is as important as ever. And I think us self-managing is as important as ever.
Natalina came in our first quarter, and I remember our first quarterly review picked up $700,000 of NOI portfolio-wide, and it was just nitty-gritty operations.
We operate in some highly regulated markets, and I've worked in many of those for the 10 plus years in my career. I think just getting really back to basics is the best place to start.
Adding to our tech stack only if it's going to make the lives of our team members easier, make it more efficient, but also provide a better experience for our residents.
Bad debt in California is our lowest in the portfolio, sub 2%. And we've got other states where it's much, much worse
Oregon's
than that.
pretty low too, no?
Oregon and California are the lowest in our portfolio.
Yeah. Breaking news.
Breaking news, we're getting into the third-party management business, but we're looking at it as owners. So
Exactly.
you're getting an owner-operator who's managing your property the same way they'd manage their own property. There's no difference.
Like, wow, like we really have such great teams, like boots on the ground at this point. It's making me as kind of an acquisitions guy excited to scale up in these markets and be like, okay, like we can execute. All right, welcome to another episode of Deal Flow Friday. I'm your host, David Moghavem, and today we got the Trion Ops team. Johnny Della Espriella, Natalina Rettew, and Max Sharkansky.
Bingo.
How's it going?
It's going great.
Great.
Thank you for having us on the
There was a
pod.
couple takes for that, so thanks
A lot of
again.
hard last names.
Yes, exactly.
Thanks for having us.
I'm really excited for this pod because I feel like Trion, I've been at Trion for 10 years. Max, the company's been going on for 20 now. And I really just feel like having you guys now on the team has put us to a different level in terms of our operations, and would love to dive into that as well. First, a quick intro for you two, for the audience. Johnny was formerly at RKW. You helped scale the multifamily portfolio
That's
from
right.
6,000 units to 30,000 units. You were also head of ops at Eagle Property Capital, and you were serving as the 2024 president of the Southeast Florida Apartment Association Board of Operations, or Board of Directors.
That's right.
So a lot of experience, our head of property management. And Natalina, you have over a decade of experience in multifamily management experience, and including managing a $5 billion portfolio at LiveCore, Blackstone, and also prior roles at Coleridge and MIG. And Natalina, Johnny, working with you guys has been a pleasure so far. We've had some great dinners,
Right.
and we've done some great tours together, but we've also been getting into the weeds, improving operations. You guys have been impact day one, and we're excited to dive into how we're doing and how we're getting our ops in line, which now more than ever, I think operations is super important. I think Max can attest to that too. Pre-rate hike, I think a lot of operators can hide behind the rent growth. They can hide behind the inflation growth, and everything looks fine and dandy on paper because you're getting recovered by rents. Now in a down market, ops is as important as ever. And I think us self-managing is as important as ever. So I guess the first question is really, what are the core fundamentals of running a high-performing multifamily portfolio? Maybe Max, if you want to kick it off, and we could talk about it with the team.
Sure. First of all, as you said, impact day one. Couldn't be happier and more proud to have you guys on board. You guys are amazing, and I'm really looking forward to growing the company with the two of you and going in a whole new direction and just being even more operationally focused, where before our whole business model was, let's buy like a blank canvas value add play and let's renovate it, reposition the asset, change the facade, change the signage, do a full common area reset. We would take an old rec room, turn it into a fitness center, with and being really smart about it and thoughtful about it. I remember we were one of the first ones to do Pelotons in the East Bay.
Right.
And there was a single file line out the door. So we just bought more Pelotons, and that was a huge selling point. And we were doing, washer dryer hookups and really nice renos. We did the vending machines with the app. and they said all kinds of different products. It wasn't just sodas. It was food and napkins and whatever you would need for your house. And now we're looking at more like, nitty gritty ops. Natalina came in her first month, our first quarter. And I remember our first quarterly review picked up $700,000 of NOI portfolio wide, which was amazing. That's like nothing I would ever be able to do. I don't think anybody in our company had that skill set. And it was just nitty gritty operations, looking at month to month audits, utility rebill audits, and looking at every line item on a financial statement and understanding where to increase your NOI, which is amazing.
Yeah, and I know part of that too is also processes. Natalina, like you and I were talking about, if one word is off on a notice, then you have to throw it out the door and reset the claim. And so I think part of that too is like maybe give a little bit of examples of some like day one impacts, even on those type of processes that most operators probably don't know about or learn the hard way. But given your experience, you were able to kind of put day one.
Yeah, and I would agree with learning the hard way. I think that's probably how a lot of us at this table have gotten to where we are.
Policies have changed too, right? So
Certainly.
It's also part of that.
Absolutely, and having to stay very nimble. And we operate in some highly regulated markets, and I've worked in many of those for the 10 plus years in my career, and so having to get very creative. I think just getting really back to basics is the best place to start. And so some of the things that Max touched on, and a little of what we talked about, it's like when bad debt isn't making sense and the team is telling you their process and everything they're describing is the right answer, actually getting behind the curtain, opening the files, let's see, what are we doing with screening? Are we overriding? Are we playing with the deposits? If we're using a deposit alternative, are we using it correctly? And yes, if we're sending the notice, I want to get my eyes on that notice and understand what isn't moving forward here. Because even in Northern California and in Oregon and Colorado, companies are finding some success. It's very hard, but we can't throw our hands up and say, oh, the regulations are making it impossible. Like yes, bad debt may be double what it was pre-COVID and before a lot of the regulations came out in Colorado, but it's not necessarily triple or quadruple. So how do we rein that in? It's just one example.
Yeah, and I think on the operational part, this is really much a people business, right? It all starts with people. It can really make or break a property's financial performance. So it all starts with hiring the best talent and really giving them all the resources from a training perspective, platforms to make them successful, so you can retain them. Those are the team members that will get you the high occupancy, the low delinquency, high renewal retention. So really, besides hiring, retaining, and training your best people and getting the best talent, after that is really communicating what the business plan is, right? And what the targets are. And really having a timeline and a process in place to really monitor these target metrics to achieve them.
Yeah, and I think part of that, when you say it's a people business, I've seen where we have different properties with different payroll structures, and some structure may look a little more efficient on paper, but if there's not that, let's say like assistant manager that's knocking on doors and trying to see like what the tenant's going through, why can't they pay, helping them out, that like person-to-person connection can really go a long way with bad debt. Sometimes it's those little things that Natalina, Johnny, you guys are just talking about that go such a long way with curing your bad debt. And it's not just, that's just how the market is. That's market bad debt. No, there's little things. It just takes a little bit of extra effort. And I appreciate the guidance that you guys have brought so far. I guess, one other thing we want to talk about too, as we're talking about also human interaction, is some of the Proptech tools that we're also implementing. I guess maybe some would say in lieu of human interaction, but I think it's more of a supplement to that. What are, I guess, a few of the tools that we've been playing around with to get our operations in order and help as like another team member for our management?
Well, we're living in an age of AI, right? Everything is AI. So we have one solution we've used for a very long time is a chatbot to interface with prospective residents, right? So years ago when we were using Appfolio, they had their proprietary chatbot. It was called Lisa. It was amazing and it worked really well. And I remember when we went from the old school kind of just, answer the phone and take a meeting to using a chatbot, our guest card, I guess, to lead ratio to actual tour ratio was skyrocketing because there were so many missed calls. And the managers walking around. And at that time, especially, we had a lot of properties with one, maybe two people on site, so that we didn't have the manpower on site to answer every phone call. And it's all evolved, right? And things evolve very, very fast in this day and age. So we then moved from Appfolio to Yardi, which meant we had to use a third-party chatbot. We piloted a few different ones. We went with one. We went with Perk, and that was after piloting Elise and Perk, and it was working great. And I was sitting at home on Saturday with my iPhone, texting all the different communities in our portfolio and others that I knew those bots worked, and I thought that was the better one.
And you were testing them out.
Yes, I was sitting there on the weekends, just on my couch, just working with the bots, and figuring out which one we liked best. And then over the upcoming days and weeks, which one was following up the most automatically, lead nurturing. And we decided to go with that product. And we discussed internally. We had some debate. There was a lot of disagreement, but that's ultimately what we decided. And here we are 2 years later. Now we're switching to the other product because they've just evolved. And it's more than just a...
What's the other product?
It's Elise.
Oh, Elise is the new product.
Yes.
Perk was the old one.
Yes.
Okay.
Because all of these products in their infancy, they were just for prospective residents, right? Somebody wants to lease a unit. They send you a text message. How much is a 2-bedroom? What's your pet policy? When is it available? Can I schedule a tour? And that was kind of the whole thing. It worked very, very well.
Yeah.
Now it's just evolved and it's just a completely different beast, right? It's got voice AI, which works incredibly well. And if someone wants to call in, instead of having a live person talk to them, there's a voice AI bot, and it works very, very well, incredibly well, scary well.
Yeah.
Like there was an example where somebody called in to the voice bot and said, I need to reschedule the meeting I have for tomorrow, the tour I have for tomorrow, because it's my daughter's birthday. And the voice bot says, happy birthday to your daughter. Let's reschedule for next week. And it's just, that's really scary, amazing.
Yeah. Wasn't there a resident that walked into the leasing office and said, who was the leasing agent I was talking to? I wanted to see if I could go on a date with her.
Yes, but that was a different product. Okay. So to my point, actually, that was a product that we used for text messaging for people that were behind on their rent.
Okay.
That product got bought by Entrada, so that's gone, and we can no longer use that. But Elise has that product. Right. So they have a rent collection product. They have a voice product. They have a text bot product. I feel like I'm doing a commercial for them. And they also have a maintenance and work order product.
Yeah.
So we tested it. I called a bunch of references. I did the same thing again, sat on my couch on weekends, nurtured the leads, watched how it nurtured me as a lead, and it worked really well. So we're offboarding our former product and onboarding Elise.
This might be the first they're hearing of that, by the way.
Oh yeah, sorry, that's PM, well, not AM. You've got your hands full, so we figured we would just have PM handle.
Johnny, would you say that's on your experience helped with the staff on site? Like, are they happy with it? Do you also feel like, again, going back to what we were talking about, replacing versus empowering your staff? Like, how do you see that? Those tools help the team.
I think going back to the AI, really, it's taking it from the beginning of the life cycle of a resident, right when they're a prospect. That experience of when they submit a lead online, that they get a response back from the AI agent. Once they move in, that AI agent is helping them right through that process, through their moving process. Once they move in, for their rent payment, for their resident portal. So really, it makes the lives of our team's members easier. And there's plenty of other platforms we're looking at as well that we currently use that makes their lives easier. For example, for market surveys and benchmarking, we have Apartment IQ.
Yeah.
Another great platform. It saves them time to do that. We have a great platform for maintenance as well. So really trying to improve the experience for our team members so they're more efficient. This app helps them, close out work orders, complete their move-in inspections. Their preventive maintenance program that we rolled out is also handled through this app. So it's really adding to our tech stack only if it's going to make the lives of our team members easier, make it more efficient, but also provide a better experience for our residents.
Exactly. I think efficiency is the part too. Even Apartment IQ, because we use it on the acquisition side, when we're pulling comps, it's a great first step, but then you still got to go call the apartments to just get that extra edge. It doesn't really replace the ops, but it just makes some of these processes more efficient. Yeah. And then, we walk comps all the time when we're deep in a deal. I don't think anything can replace that for now. But yeah, these tools are super powerful. I guess on the asset management side, what are some of the tools, Proptech ideas that we've been embracing that's been a huge help?
Well, we have been excited to onboard Apartment IQ on the asset management side as well, in terms of meeting the needs of our capital partners and being able to answer those questions really quickly. Also, we use AI revenue management, being able to fact check and use some additional data and clarity around pricing and setting prices. Additionally, we're just about to roll out our own instance of Power BI, which I'm very excited about. Nice. If you know, right?
I don't know if the audience knows. You gotta give them the
data
scoop.
Visualization. Everyone has seen commercials for Tableau.
Yeah.
Right? I see the market very heavily.
Yeah, it's Excel and PowerPoint having a really cool baby.
Yes. Yes.
And just allowing us, we talk about scaling, right? Not going property by property and every property getting the same amount of time and attention, but that 80-20 rule and the ability to dive in when we see issues to get a little predictive and understand trends and, adjust pricing early on, things like that. That will really help us just to visualize the portfolio as a whole and then look for the outliers.
Yeah, so all of this, what I've seen, since you guys have joined and we've been embracing this technology, is that it's been also a huge impact in transmitting that information to our investors, to our equity partners, because part of it is not just having good ops, but explaining it and showing it to our capital partners. I guess talk a little bit about the importance also of having the transparency with our partners and how some of these tools help with showing the bigger picture, what's market versus what's management, what can we do better versus what's the reality boots on the ground? How has that been?
Yeah, and that's been one of the most rewarding and interesting parts of this new role because I came from that side.
Yeah.
So I was the capital partner. I was the one asking those really tough questions of operations and making management changes and recommendations when things weren't going well. And so I try to cater my responses with that in mind. And I think of utmost is data integrity, being able to support any number that we provide to them, and also being able to tell a story and a narrative that jives with what's really happening, boots on the ground.
Yeah, definitely.
How has that transition been? Oh, sorry, you want to?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think, when we prepare our budgets, our annual budgets, that's really our promise to our investors and everybody involved. And we're very much committed to it, but we all know there's things that happen sometimes throughout the year, market condition shifts, and having platforms that you can really be able to have the visibility to explain what's going on in the market. Are we being better than our competitors? Are we doing the best we can to navigate those waters? Also helps tremendously.
How's the transition from, being the person who does a lot of the beating up to now, having to answer some of our LPs.
Getting beaten up.
Yeah, exactly.
Guys, property management is a lot harder than it looks. So
yes.
that's
Especially
my biggest
in this
takeaway.
Cycle, yeah.
It's real. Oh yeah. In this operational environment.
Yeah.
And it's, there's such a human element to it that it cannot be discounted and often is when you're that extra step removed. But, people are flawed, they're imperfect, mistakes happen. You're sometimes only as strong as your maintenance supervisor going out and calling a vendor for something that's not approved. we live and die by that, and it plays out in the numbers. And we control, as much as we absolutely can. So I think that's been my biggest takeaway is a newfound empathy for the site teams and the number of requests that come from all different directions. And then the really involved capital partners that think they know the business better than the people that are living it every day, who want to, dissect a unit reno down to the, speckle of resurfacing, color on the counter, or
what's the ROI on the backsplash?
Yeah.
Hey, that's a legit question.
Yeah.
I'll allow it. But, hey, take everything you just gave me, now put it into my format. Like, don't you have an analyst that can do that for you? Do you really want the property manager spending time on that? Or do you want them out walking the property, making sure it looks good and, something that does that really add value to the property, or does that just make your day a little easier?
Right. It's crazy when we're talking to some of these capital partners. It makes a world of a difference from when you have like a really good capital partner that works with you versus some that are not in the weeds. Another part I would say is I think that human inefficiency is kind of our edge as self-managing to have an efficiency and have alpha in multifamily. I would tell you, some of our regionals, we have some really good regionals, and some of them are really outstanding, where in markets that are super management intensive, I'm like, wow, we can perform really well in these markets because we have a great team. And I think especially multifamily, that makes a world of a difference and is like true alpha in outperforming in a market because of just the boots on the ground that we have.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Agreed.
It's all people. It's
all
a people
people.
business. And like any other business, I don't think it's specific to multifamily, of course. It's any business, you have to manage those people and nurture those people and keep everybody happy and try to keep morale up in tough times. That's really,
But like
really
a triple
difficult.
net lease retail deal or something, it's just not the same dynamic as like a management intensive multifamily deal. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Yeah.
Because these are people's homes.
Yeah.
It's their lives. And if you're good at what you do and you're a competent human being and you're an A player, then you want to have a great product for those people and you care.
Yeah.
And you want everybody to have a good experience.
Yep. So one of the things I want to talk about with you guys is going back into like market in our portfolios. What are some of the biggest surprises you're seeing? Max, maybe you could start off with like, what are some of the biggest surprises you're seeing this year in our portfolio from the operations, I guess like West Coast versus East Coast? And we have a great lens, right? We're in 8 different states from California to Florida. So what are you seeing on the operations side that are some of the trends and then also some of the biggest surprises and maybe differences between the different states and coasts?
I think the most pleasant surprise was when we were doing some analysis on a state-by-state basis on a lot of our different line items in the financials, and that bad debt in California is our lowest in the portfolio. So I think the knee jerk would be for a company that owns in a lot of states in different political climates that California probably has the worst bad debt because it's so regulatory intensive and there were so many issues during COVID, and the bad debt was really horrible during COVID. But as we sit here today, in August 2025, in our portfolio, California has very, very low bad debt. What is it, sub 2%? Sub 3%?
Yeah.
Sub 2%. Mm-hmm. And we've got other states where it's much, much worse than that.
Oregon's pretty low too, no?
Oregon and California are the lowest in our portfolio.
Yeah, which are the 2 rent control states.
And hardest to evict.
Yeah, and hardest to evict.
Yeah. And
I feel like the rent control does play a little bit of a role for some of like the lower bad debt because I guess if you're under market,
right, it makes sense.
Like why would you be delinquent? But maybe part of that too is higher incomes. Not so. I guess I want to dissect a little bit. Why do you think that's the case?
I don't know. Maybe it's a supply issue also, where
That's true.
somebody,
Yeah.
if somebody loses their home because of an eviction, it's not so easy to just find something similar at the same price, especially as you pointed out, if they have a slightly low rent, then they want to keep that unit. It's an asset, right? It's like having think about it. It's like having a business contract on some sort of an asset that's 20% below market. You don't want to give that up.
The rental becomes an asset.
Yeah, it's an asset.
Yeah.
It's an asset.
I think also, if I can pay a compliment, it has to do with where we buy, right? It's California for us is largely East Bay, but specifically like San Leandro, Fremont, some of these more prime suburban markets. And then Sacramento, which historically has been a really strong performer on the delinquency and collection side.
Yep.
So there's that. Portland, it's Hillsborough, Aloha, Beaverton. It's not necessarily a ton in, call it Gresham. Maybe one day we'll invest in Gresham.
Yeah.
But it's more about the ancillary and service providers for the major employers rather than like logistics, warehousing, you name it. I think that does play into some of the fundamentals that we're seeing and why we've been able to find success there. And then again, strong teams. Some of our strongest managers and regionals are in those markets.
Yeah, we definitely see different regulations from an operational in our markets, right? From an operational perspective, it definitely hurts the value of some of the properties when you have regulations like rent control or anything stopping evictions. But once you learn how to navigate them from an operational perspective, you develop the right processes and workflows. It starts to become non-challenging at that point. So it's really about adjusting and coming up with the right processes to adapt to some of these regulations because they are very different by state.
Yeah, so I guess give an example of like maybe some way we were able to kind of adapt to a regulation. I know like there's so many different states that the regulations keep changing. And then we, as Natalina said, we learn the hard way sometimes, but just give us a little bit of lens in some of these processes that maybe the audience can pick up and say, okay, maybe I should start implementing these in my properties.
We've seen it in some markets where there are delays with the eviction processing. So there are times where we will adjust and hire private process servers or additional resources to speed these things up. When it comes to rent control or something along those terms, also, really looking at what are the best strategies to still navigate that. There are also a lot of from a human resources perspective. So we have a great team as well, and human resources that's also having the right process in place and working with our operations teams to make sure we're abiding by all these regulations.
Yeah, I would say like with Colorado, for instance, like some of these regulations that just keep coming and changing, it's just been super tough. And we're seeing it kind of hit. But if you can wrap your head around some of these laws and rules and the minutia of it, and not only, like you said, getting the right wording on the notices to make sure it doesn't reset, that's how you can kind of create that alpha in outperforming on some of your markets.
And I think it's really, we've seen this before. When AB 1482, rent control for California came, there was this overcorrection where you had a massive amount of month-to-months. People, it was just not enough of a discount to sign a 12-month lease. It wasn't worth it, so they rolled month-to-month. And then Oregon, SB 608, same story, maybe less so on the month-to-months, but just kind of this overcorrection of people trying to figure out how to navigate these strategies, right? Can we even implement valet living in Oregon, right? That was a question at that time, and how we could do it. And now we're seeing it in Colorado. And what I would say is, now that we're 5-6 years down the road, maybe 7 years with some of those regulations, things have really stabilized for California and Oregon. I'm not advocating for these regulations. All I'm saying is stabilization can come for Colorado.
Yeah, like stop changing the rules, right? Like we need a playing field that the rules just stop changing. And I think now you're seeing, as you said, stabilization, where it's like, okay, now we have time to learn. Now we have time to do the processes the right way. And I think that's part of it for sure.
And leaning really heavily on our apartment associations to help, not only for the advocacy side, but for help on the interpretation, making sure that we don't step outside the line. Because, we have a business to operate, and we have residents to take care of, and we take care of them by being able to pay our bills. And so, we're towing that line, but we also are not interested in breaking the law.
Right.
I mean, that's a really good point. As you asked that question, I was kind of thinking the same thing. that Colorado is going through like a certain like Californication of the state, but where California was doing it in like 2016, 17, 18, 19. I remember all of us were like tearing our hair out trying to just keep up with the regs. And then it stopped. And then in Oregon too. But I remember Oregon, it's a smaller state and you get a little bit closer. You talk to a lobbyist, somebody, and you know somebody who, they know people who are in state government, and Oregon was saying, we're going to do these 2-3 things and it's pretty much over. And that's what happened. And Oregon was a little more stable. So they passed a couple laws, and then they passed a housing law here and there like any state does. But at this point, it's stable, and we know what framework we're working within, right? And I think Colorado is going to get there pretty soon. It seems like, most of the regs have been already done. It's just been an excruciating process. Like getting on a weekly call with your LP and saying, why is your bad debt, so high? And you say, well, we had to reserve our notices. Our notices got kicked out. Well, what, you didn't serve your notices correctly? Well, no, they passed a new regulation that like they have to be in multiple languages, or the notice has to have a certain disclaimer on it, and our notice didn't have it, but they passed the law in the middle of the eviction, so now we have to reserve, and it makes it really, really challenging to operate as the goalposts are moving.
Yeah. I guess one question for you guys is, since you two have joined, Max, Natalina, Johnny, like, has there been any operational philosophy differences or things that may say like, I know you've been doing it this way for a while, but I think we should do it that way. Has there been any kind of differences in opinion? Or even on that same note, has there been anything where you guys have seen the way we run our process? You're like, you know what? I really like the way that's ran. We never did it that way, but I like that. I guess any examples of that?
I think I've seen operationally we're pretty aligned, I would say. From where I come from, I have not had to change much of operational procedures. It's really been a lot of fine tuning and continue to build on what we have. And as Natalina mentioned, implementing a Power BI and having a lot of different resources to really monitor our performance. But I think we've been pretty aligned in our operations, actually.
Yeah, I would say it's more of an adjustment on just how we make decisions. Mm-hmm. So we were just talking about like, wow, in my old companies, just analysis paralysis, like needing to run the model 100 times before we decide to go with like a Meet Elise. Meanwhile, Shark and I are on the phone with our rep with Meet Elise asking a couple of questions, and on the phone he's like, okay, I signed the contract. And I'm like, oh, that was happening right now. Okay, well, I guess we should figure out what properties are going to go first in the pilot. And I mean, they're blowing us up today. I'm supposed to have a call with them. We haven't picked the property, so we're going to do that.
Right.
But it's great. It's like moving at the speed of business. And sure, sometimes it can be a little hectic for that moment, and then the dust settles and we figure it out. We had some fun banter when I was new about delinquency and in terms of negotiating with residents, or maybe a promise to pay, or hey, they pay eventually, right? And it's true. Like, we have some properties in Northern California with low bad debt because we accrue the bad debt at 90 days.
Right.
Days 0 to 90, someone could pay in that time, whether it's day 3 or day 60, and it won't hit on the books. However, our mortgage is still due on, between the 5th and the 8th of the month, depending on the loan. And so I think that was something where, we quickly got on the same page, but I came in and there were some different practices, and we've had to kind of retrain some of the site team who were used to doing things a certain way for a certain amount of time. But I think in explaining what's in it for them, the benefits, why behind the what, we've really been able to get everyone on the same page and aligned.
Nice. Max, nothing to add there?
That's their question. Yeah. No, that's that's their question to answer.
Fair enough. I guess, some closing thoughts. We talked a lot about AI and all that, but I guess maybe separate from that, looking forward the next couple years, and I think it's going to be a little bit of a better operating environment. I hope, fingers crossed, better operating environment. What do you think will be like the changes that'll have the biggest impact? Again, like we talked about AI, but maybe like something else other than AI of like operational impact at Trion as we move forward the next couple of years, processes, efficiencies in operations. Not all at once.
I mean, scaling our third party could be something that really takes us to the next level.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. We're getting into the third-party management business, and I think we do it pretty well for ourselves. Oh, sorry. Yes, sorry. We're getting into the third-party management business. I'd like to think we do it pretty well for ourselves. At least, most of our LPs, not all, have thought so, and we want to offer that service to others. We have the infrastructure. We have the personnel. From Johnny and Natalina all the way to the great regionals, as you pointed out earlier. And right now we have an amazing team of regionals. We've had some personnel changes.
Really good regionals.
Johnny came on earlier this year. We made some personnel changes at that level as well. Right now the team is just AAA plus. Great site level people, and we have depth. We have depth in market with vendors, and we understand markets. So we want to offer that service to others. And the genesis was, we've had over the years, some of our LPs call us and say, hey, we own this other property with this other sponsor, or we own it ourselves direct. It's a mess. Can you help us manage out of it? And we've done it, and we've done it successfully. And right now we're actually creating a brochure, and we're putting some of those case studies in the brochure. So we're going to be building out that business, and we're super excited for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited for it because I've seen how successful we've been third partying kind of as a favor, like you said, for like an investor who said like, please get us out of this hole. And we've done it, and we've gotten out of the hole. And now with Natalina and Johnny on the team, I feel even more confident. And I think our edge and our alpha through our management is something that maybe, I don't know if like, we're sharing it with the world, but it's just something that we can really capitalize on, and it has so much potential because we manage, I've noticed, like in such a different style than your typical third party, the big names, the Gray Stars, the AMCs, there's just different alignments of interest. And I think by being on the principal side, we see the NOI, we see like the bottom line. And so we know how to manage for maximum potential also of value. It's not just about, being passive and managing for occupancy, but it's like really capitalizing on all efficiencies of what a potential of a property could be.
Absolutely. And I think we're going to be, because we're not a management company, we're not started as a management company, and we're not going to be just like, trying to figure out how to maximize our revenue and how to make a couple bucks here and a couple bucks there. But we're looking at it as owners, right? So exactly. You're getting an owner operator who's managing your property the same way they'd manage their own property. There's no difference. We're talking about in management meetings, it's the same thing. So that's why we have these multiple case studies where we've taken properties over and we've had significant improvements in 4 to 9 months. 3 off the top of my head. One was a boutique local management company that we took over, but 2 others were national management companies with 100,000 plus units. One with several 100,000 units, where we took over and occupancy was in the low 80s, and today they're both in the 90s, mid 90s. So we're excited to offer that to other people.
Yeah, I think again with like some of the bigger names, you don't know what team you're going to get. I think with us, you know exactly what team you would be getting, and by being an owner and having the team, the nimbleness that we have, we're going to be nitty gritty in the weeds more than maybe a C team at a big company would be getting.
Correct.
And we still have, I don't know if this is being offered, I might be misspeaking, but like we have our own master insurance policy. We have our own like of these Proptech tools. So like that's part of, is that part of the package? Is the like a master? Yeah. Okay, great.
Yes, we have our master policies, and anybody
and
who
that's
wants
a huge edge. Yeah, that's an amazing edge. So
a lot of the management companies either don't have them, or if they do have them, they're very snobby about what properties they put on because they don't want, an older, junkier property on their master for obvious reasons. But we'll take the older, junkier property, so we don't have room to be snobby yet.
Yeah. I mean, you're really ripping on our portfolio, but yes, old junky, but we've made it beautiful, and But we have experience. We have experience in that vintage, and having experience there on ops is important. On project management, it's important. How to, on acquisitions, how to inspect for those systems, and then on the ops side, how to address, a pipe leak or address some of these issues the right way. Because with that vintage, there's a lot of hurdles. It's very different than new construction. There's a lot of mold, asbestos, this, that. And it's like, knowing the right way to treat it, the right way that's also safe, most importantly, but also cost efficient. I think that's something where we've learned as an owner that maybe some other bigger third-party managers might have issues with.
Yep.
You said it well too. It's also the expertise in all asset types. We have a very diverse team currently, that have managed luxury new developments and across a lot of different markets. A lot of value add, to your point, where there may be a lot of maintenance issues and knowing how to navigate through that. So I think we'll bring a lot to the table: personalized attention, owner mindset, but also that expertise in a lot of different markets and with different asset types. From myself to our regional managers and all of our support teams.
Yeah. I had the pleasure, when we did our West Coast tour, of really sitting down with our regionals as well. And I turned to Max, I think I turned to you guys too. I'm like, wow, we really have such great teams, boots on the ground at this point, that when we were first breaking into markets, that was harder to find. And now that we've established ourselves in our markets, it's been amazing to see the hire, the talent that we have on that regional level. It's making me, as kind of an acquisitions guy, excited to scale up in these markets and be okay, we can execute. So that's been huge for us. And also credit to the rest of the team. Not everyone can be sitting in this podcast. The rest of the team, Carlene, Sanchez, Simon, Mashad, everyone really puts their part of the ops as well. And it's going to be a great next chapter for sure.
Absolutely.
One thing I wanted to do is a rapid fire round on ops. One word answers. Gonna say a question. One word answers will go around, and we'll do a couple of these. And yeah, I'll start. Favorite op KPI.
Occupancy.
Return on headache, ROH.
Yes, ROH.
That's a good one. Economic occupancy.
Economic occupancy. Okay. Most underrated Proptech tool. We really talked a lot about Proptech, but we'll go here.
Market survey tool.
I'm going to say AI revenue management, just because it's getting so much hate right now. But
Is that what you're going to say?
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say revenue management. Revenue management is, I know this is very not fireside, but it is, if you have the right people running it, it's incredible. I'm going to say chatbot.
Chatbot?
Yeah.
Nice. Ops headache you'd outsource.
Accounts payable.
Ooh.
That's good.
That's a good one.
I'm going to say serving notices.
Serving notices?
Good one.
In the spirit of
one word answers.
Sorry.
Self-guided
tours.
Self-guided tours.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the leasing agent's not doing it, right?
Yeah.
Self-guided tour.
Yeah.
You're outsourcing it to software, not to a human being.
Yeah. And then I guess on the other side of it, ops aspects that cannot be outsourced.
Site management.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah, resident retention.
Yeah.
And all that goes into it, right?
Yeah. Keeping people on, for sure.
I think those are good answers. Just people management.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's good. That was good. That was a good exercise. Appreciate it, guys. This was fun. It was great to have you guys on board. Great to all be together, right? We're, Miami office, San Diego and LA, you're Miami, LA, and so when we're all spread across doing work and just talking through teams and stuff, it's great. We're productive, but it's nice to sit down, have dinner like we had a couple nights ago, and just put our heads together and just take a deep breath and collab. So appreciate it. Thanks for hopping on. Thanks everyone for tuning in. And this was great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Demo.
This is great.